Hello, my name's Alison Carey and I'm going to show you how to make a wee bracelet today. I'll be working with jute because that's what I do, but if you find the jute a wee bit of hard work, have a go with some wool. Wool's a lot easier and it's a bit more forgiving. It's a little bit less tough on the hands as well. So you can see that I've got an old spool here. It's been used a lot. It's a pretty tatty old thing. But like I said, I've been using it for years. Some of you will know it as like a knitting dolly or a knitting Nancy, and some people would just call it spool knitting. I've heard the Canadians and Americans, they have another name for it which escapes me right now. I'm hoping you can kind of see what I'm doing here. So you're looping it around each of the pegs. And you loop it around all four and come back to the start and loop it again. And you take your hook tool and the loop on the bottom, hoping you can see it okay. You hook it over and just give the bottom thread that you pulled through just a wee tug just to hold it tight. And what we're going to do is we're going to work all the way around, and I'm sure that some of you will remember this from when you were little. When I used to be a stall holder, before I got this studio, the amount of places I would go and I would have so many people coming and saying, we used to do that when we were young. They used to do it with a little like the thread bobbins, you know, like for sewing thread, the little wooden bobbins that you got, and they used to chap 4 nails in the top and they used to sit and knit and knit and knit. And they'd be like, we used to do that for hours on end, and we never had any idea why we were doing it or what we were going to do with it. Well, it might have taken a while, but I finally cracked what you do with it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to keep going, and after a wee while you will start to see it poking out the bottom, and we're going to make it into a little bracelet. And I make them into earrings and things like that as well. So, like these guys up here, with them. If you make little sausages, you can make them into earrings. And I can make them into little round ones and things as well. But we're going to go for a bracelet because it's nice and easy. So I've got a really nice lime and purple going on here. And these were dyed by Nutscene. Nutscene are a little jute manufactory out at Kingsmuir near Forfar. So it's nice and local. And they've been there, well, they've been there as long as I can remember, and I'm 30 something. They've been out there a while. But they started out in Dundee, which, as some of you'll know, is the home of jute. It used to be called Jutopolis. And we're working away here today in my wee studio, right in the historic heart of Jutopolis, near Verdant Works, next to Meadow Mill. That's where it all started in the 1830s. It's really, really nice to be bringing jute back, you know, like to the Scottish Historical Centre. And nice to be bringing it up to date as well. So I discovered Nutscene, and they dye all these wonderful colours. Limes and purples and yellows and flamingo pinks and all kinds of colours. And they're nearly as bright and funky as wool. You know, all the colours that wool comes in. How many different jumpers have you had in your life, you know? So, yeah, I just wanted to make jute a bit more colourful. So we're talking about these colours, and that was all exciting, finding out that Nutscene used to start out in Dundee. And they were based near Cox's Mill over in Lochee. And some of you that know about some of the jute mills will know that that's where the stack is, at the Stack Park. That's the second tallest chimney in Britain. Now that's a big old landmark that you can see from the top of the Law. In fact, if you stand in the right place in St Andrews, you can see it from there as well. So we looked at how people used to dye wool, and they used to dye wool with all kinds of things, rhubarb and onions and dandelion roots and all kinds of stuff that you'd usually maybe think about eating rather than dyeing with. And we discovered that onions dye really well. If you dye with brown onion skins, that you get a yellow colour. If you dye with red onion skins, you get a green colour. If you dye with turmeric, you get a bright yellow. It's absolutely fantastic. And we tried picking brambles. So when the seasons changed, we changed our tactic. And we picked raspberries and brambles and things from the side of the road. And we got elderberries and we managed to get a blue. Let's see. So we'll have this one here. That's what I was going to show you. I don't know if you can see the colours in that. So the purples there are brambles. And the pinks were the raspberries. And I think we had elderberries in there as well. So it's amazing the things that you can find and just pick. You know, like out on a dog walk or out on a cycle in the countryside. I was going around Dundee one day, just out on a walk with the dogs, and I would see all these mill buildings, and I was like, what are they about? I don't know anything about jute or about Dundee. There we go. I don't know if you can see that coming out the end yet there. Just a little wee bit. You can see the colours are all mixing through. What we're going to do is we're going to work enough that this tail will be able to come up to here, and that's just about the right length for a bracelet. So yeah, it's a wee bit repetitive. I've just gone for just letting the colours sit whichever way up they land. Sometimes the purple thread is on top, sometimes it's on the bottom, and it'll come out really nice and mixed when it's finished. If you really want to be particular about it, you can keep one colour on the top all the way through, but that means really paying attention. If you do manage to keep one on top and one on the bottom all the time, you'll end up with nice kind of zigzag patterns through it. And when I used to do this all the time, before I discovered how to do other stuff with jute, sometimes I would have two colours working one way and two colours working the other way, so I'd have two tails of jute happening, and you could make bracelets with like a stripe down the side. Sometimes I like to take the twine, like you see I'm working with, like I have two single strands like that, and it's much easier to work it as like this rather than it being twisted together. But sometimes I do twist it on a spindle, and some people that have maybe been craft workers before might recognise the tool that I use for that. So I use a drop spindle and used to let it hang and twist the yarn round into this twisted stuff. So I was making silver there, a silvery kind of coloured twine, and that will get used in probably in bracelets later on. But you can twist all different kinds of colours together and make really fancy colours you can't even buy, people haven't even thought of. And we're getting there. So you can check, maybe about ½ inch to go. Right. Then once we get to that length, I'll show you how to tie it off, and I'll show you what you need to finish it. But we're going to finish it off with a magnetic clasp, because they're nice and easy to pop off and on. Let's see. I'm going to leave a wee bit spare. I'm going to cut that off all the way about there. And then you should have a wool needle. It's just like a plastic needle, so it's quite bendy. It's got a nice big eye on it. And you should be able to take the ends of your jute and just give them a little twist in your fingers, or maybe just lick your finger and just so they stick together. You want to thread the needle. You might need a wee hand with that because it can be a bit footery. The jute likes to try and split, but like I say, if you give your finger a wee lick and just damp the end, it makes it a lot easier. So what we're going to do is round each peg, you see the little loop there? So we're going to go and thread the needle through each one and back to the start. So you just thread it through like that. Okay. Making sure that you go through underneath both the threads. There we go. One more. You go around each peg and just thread it through like that. And then the first one again, so you've done a full circle. Like that. And we don't need that. And what you do is you really carefully just take it off each peg, like that. Okay. You pull it out, like that. That's what you've got. And when you take this thread that you just sewn through and just pull it like that, and that just pulls it all tight at the end, and you shouldn't need to put a knot or anything in it. Okay, there we are. I just give it a bit of a roll in my hands just to take a bit of the fuzziness off it, but you can always give it a little haircut with your scissors as well. This jute's quite fuzzy. I don't think you would have it quite so fuzzy with wool. Just give it a wee trim like that. Okay. So that's the knitted bit. You see how kind of marbled it came out with all the colours. Now that's a finished one. So we're just going to go and put the magnets on the end now. So I've got little magnets here. You can see that, just like that, nice and easy to go together. I always make sure that they are going to fit first before I put the glue on, because the glue is very strong. It should be like that. That's fine. I use, it's called Gorilla Glue, and it's very, very strong. But you don't want to make a mistake with it because it will glue your fingers together and you will have to get a doctor. So if you're not very sure, we're a wee bit shaky maybe, you might want to get a wee bit of help with that. There we go. You don't need very much of this stuff. I always just put in a little wee dab, and I don't think I've ever had any come apart. So when you're sure you want to put it in, you have to be really sure, because it's not going to come back out again. Now, you probably want to leave it for a couple of hours just to make sure that it's set properly. You don't want to put it on right away in case you've got any leaks. You don't want to glue it to your own hand. But that's it. You're done. You've made your bracelet. It's a nice wee activity. It can take a wee while. You can take as long as short as you want. You can make short bits and make earrings and things too. You can make longer bits. You can make miles and miles of it and make it into a big long necklace. But I definitely recommend the idea of putting the magnets on. You just make them so easy to pop on and pop off. So I think that's it. I think that's all I've got to say. So I hope you enjoyed that, and looking forward to seeing what some of you guys make. Alright, bye bye.